Hello and welcome to another edition of the Stench of Truth. Pardon the noise in the background, that is my furnace. I have a theory, because I do really believe that at some point in the past, can't say when exactly it ended, but at some point in the past, things were relatively normal. I mean, to a certain degree. I mean, there was a little bit of craziness here and there. But right now, because we're living in bizarro world that doesn't add up to anything, and people espouse the most ridiculous, ludicrous notions as though they are like Shakespearean plays of fantastic magnanimity, and propose solutions to problems which, on the very face of it, make the problems worse. And yet they stand in firm resolve to defend those positions. So this is bizarro land. So my theory is that at some point we were all inserted into a matrix, just like in the movie The Matrix, and just like in the movie Dark City. Someone's going around tinkering with things. They put us into a matrix. The programs are breaking down, so everything is cartoon-like. And that's why when I look out my window at any given day, I expect to see a cartoon cloud go by with a smiley face on it, maybe singing some sort of jingly song, and perhaps Bugs Bunny will actually walk down the streets. When I look at the world, though, and I realize that, you know, it's great to have philosophical ideas and to discuss them about what is the reality and the nature of reality for us. What we're faced with on any given day is something that we have to actually, interact with in some fashion. So, regardless of whether this is a virtual reality or real reality, we're faced with tremendous problems. And when I see the thuggery of the state being put to full effect to crush the Occupy protests around the country, and when I see the continued denial of people, even in the supposed alternative media movement, that there are actual people involved with this, that they actually do have ideas, that they are focused on something, and that is the oppression of Wall Street, the oppression of multinational corporatism, the oppression of globalization, which has destroyed our entire jobs infrastructure in this country and sent them overseas because it's cheaper to do so. The imposition of free trade agreements, all of these things can be summed up in the Occupy protests. Why do I have to continue paying a mortgage on a home that I'm paying too much for, that's now valued way less than what my mortgage is? And what's the proposal by the Grand Messiah, Barry Soetoro? Well, no debt relief. Of course not. You gotta pay that fucker back. Yet, when it comes to banks, corporations, and the moneyed elite, they are given unlimited funds to continue their casino gambling. And there is nothing for the people in this country. This is what Occupy represents. And as I've said before, I fervently wish that they would get together and finally bring about a program of change, a list of demands. I don't even care what they are. Just do it. Because I know that you are focused on the root of the problem, and that is the money power. That is the moneyed elites. That is Wall Street. That is multinational corporations. And all of the evils that are wrought by them. And when you have a puppet as president, and you have puppets that supposedly represent you, the only thing you have left to do is to go and camp out on a fucking street outside of corporate fucking behemoth headquarters to say, this shit has to stop. And put up with being crushed by SWAT teams and flashbang grenades and so-called non-lethal weaponry, to be jailed for expressing your free speech because your assembly is unlawful. The right to peaceably assemble is in the Constitution, but it does not apply anymore, does it? Just like nothing else in the Constitution does. It's a worthless piece of paper. And for anybody who wants to go back to the Constitution, you're dreaming. You're dreaming. There is no Constitution. There is no rule of law. Everything is decided by the rich and the powerful. And they are synonymous. Because money buys power. And that's why money is invested in Washington, D.C. Because they own it. And they want everything to continue as it has. And once someone comes up with programs that aim directly at the profit margin of multinational corporations and Wall Street, like how about a transaction tax? I pay fucking sales tax on almost everything I fucking buy. And yet, here you have Wall Street making thousands of transactions, maybe millions over the course of a day, who knows, with these computer programs. Every time they make a transaction, they might make a penny, 2 pennies off it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's casino gambling and betting against bets and betting against your own people, betting against your own, customers. They're notorious for that. Here, buy my shit so I can insure it and then short you. So I make money and you're fucked. Just like how they diced up all the mortgages. Threw them into a big bag, mixed them up, spread them out everywhere, sold the shit to anybody who was willing to buy, talked them up a big game, and then insured them and bet against them. We don't give a shit what happens to you. See, they don't even care about their own customers. All they care about is themselves and their continued existence. So when they come up with a list of demands that goes after that profit margin, then they're a threat to the establishment. And that's why the police come out in full force. So what you see in Oakland with this massive police action and the combat veteran getting seriously injured by this so-called non-lethal weaponry. And you have the actions of Miss Kwan in Oakland, who tried to have her cake and eat it too, and then basically just threw up all over herself. I'd rather not have any political people even step anywhere near this movement at all. But this is what you see whenever you have a state that is completely controlled by the interests that Occupy is trying to focus the light on. Yeah, sure, there's all kinds of agent provocateurs in there. There's all kinds of anarchists. There's all kinds of every stripe of people trying to get involved in this, trying to hop on the back of it, trying to co-opt it, trying to push it in some direction or another. Maybe they'll succeed. Maybe it was started as a way to, corral people. Maybe it was. But it has given me a little scrap of hope about that much. You can see my fingers are actually apart just a little tiny bit. It's maybe given me that much hope that people are not completely fucking decimated in this country. That they do still have a grain of something in their mind to realize that something is desperately wrong. And the only thing that's ever going to achieve any kind of change is striking, is getting out there and just making a nuisance of yourself in every way possible. So it's given me a modicum of hope. So I'm going to continue to have that little scrap of hope, because God knows I haven't had any for a long ass time. And I'm going to continue to have that scrap and shred of hope until it's been completely proven that this thing is an entirely controlled affair. And then my scrap of hope will be flushed down the toilet, just like I did with every other scrap of hope I've ever had. Is there a future? Who the fuck knows? What's going to happen? Probably end up like Rollerball and have corporations running everything. We'll all be slaves and serfs, and we'll pay to have the privilege of having a job. Otherwise, you'll just be a homeless bum living on the street, if you're so lucky. So, just some food for thought and randomness for today.